Oh, hi. Well, we are on holiday here in New Zealand. It is Waitangi Day, the 6th of February, a recently, I think, designated holiday. So maybe you are here in New Zealand or maybe you are somewhere else, but oh, these energies are hard to define, aren't they? So for me, I feel like my heart is doing its own exploding. Feels delicious though, but it's quite a massive energy. But really, I wanted to speak today about a number of things, and whether I get to them all or not, I don't know. So, this thing about truth, I really wanted to speak about truth and authenticity because for me, this whole idea that Guy spoke to me about a long time ago about how the molecular structure of a lie would not be able to hold its form at some point, that is where we're at. And I know that I have referenced this before, but what has become patently clear over this week is how much and how expansive that statement is. So it is impacting us. It's especially impacting the brain, and it's impacting the planet and our history and government and law and all of that. So it's on the I try on it's too big. So I really haven't got it mastered. But if you come back to self and you and your cellular molecular structure, and you think about what is happening for you in terms of this, it's your return to your authenticity, the real you, the genuine you, the one that holds the higher consciousness that is you, your spiritual higher conscious self in light form come slash physical. And this is the grand reveal to self. So anything that is not aligned for you in your own authentic truth and journey in your life, the things that don't add up, they're going to be showing now. So a lot of you will have already been in process with this, but I'm just starting at that sort of softer end of the scale. Speaking of which, that is what the energies are like today, isn't it? They've been really intense. I think when I woke this morning, I asked to be given a word. I don't always remember to do that, but this morning I got integration. That we're in that sort of at the end of the integration of these energies that have been, I want to say, pelting the planet. And it feels softer in the heart. So the heart's been and is in this sort of explosion, but it's softer, it's gentler, it's more love-filled. And I think the Divine Feminine are very much in the place of knowing. Not necessarily knowing exactly what, but in that deep, deep place of knowing that we're there, or we're there almost, or we're almost over the finish line, or we're in the preparation for the grand finale. And to me, it's so true. So this authentic truth is going to come into us in terms of our own wounding that needs to be healed, in terms of any learnings that we might need to complete, in terms of our extraordinary gifts and talents that might be miraculous. You might hold the keys and codes for miracles of healing. You might hold the keys and codes for the miracle of prophecy, but these are going to start to show up in your life. So hello, BU and Preeti and Charlotte and Jen. Good morning, good morning. Yeah, so this idea of this truth and authenticity is about your internal patterns, So it's interesting that the ley lines, um, feel free to pull me back if I get lost because there's a lot. But the ley lines on the earth, I've always been shown the ley lines, sort of both internally and externally. And the ley lines, are, are were so the ley line the I'll try and do it in order. Internal of the earth at the moment is a pattern that's created through the connection of all of the pyramids. So you will have heard me speak of that before. So the pyramids above and below ground, above and below water, hidden and seen, known and not known. All of those pyramids create, this pattern internally, which is like a giant double layered, um, flower with pointy, droopy ends off a plate. And so there's two layers, and they are all the tips. Well, those points are created through the crossover of the connection points of all of the grids internal, or the pyramids internal of the earth, external of the earth. So that getting lost. That they were sort of connected up, and there was a run through of those as the ley lines. So the pyramids all sit on the ley lines. That's the part I forgot to say. Um, to check, if you like, that all the connections were there. So that was, I don't know, sometime last year. And then recently, they were, in the last week, they've been upped, Gaia said, to 60%. So I made a post about that. So they're running now, all of those, as at 60%. And then she said that they were putting spikes in at 80%, and that was to begin the awakening of the second wave. And the second wave, of course, is this massive wave of beings on the planet. So that's in process, and it's like they are pulsating. So they've been there as a hum, and now they're at the sort of pulsation. And so you might be feeling that under your feet. I think, what day was it? I had someone here. Monday maybe. That was the. Let me just check and see, because I remember the person I was referencing it to. And it's the first time, Tuesday, it's the first time in my life, in my work with Gaia, that I've ever felt the pulsation of the planet with my feet off the ground. So I could feel these pulsations from the grids with my feet this far off the ground. So that, hi Craig, authenticity obscures love. Ah, interesting. I'll have to have a look at that. Thank you, Craig. Arctos girl, been in the anticipation of a child heading to the beach on a hot summer day for the past 5 years. Are we there yet? The anticipation is palpable. It really is, isn't it? It's very, very exciting. So we've got that going on, these pulsating grids, and ley lines and spikes coming in to kind of provoke, is what I want to say, or evoke. Now, I'm not saying that my story is the only truth or the only story. I guess if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I always see that there's many ways to view things. But there's that. And then external, you could see, and I'm telling you this because I spoke to a couple of people about this week. It sort of came back to the forefront of my mind, like a giant expanding band made up of triangles on the external. So Gaia has always shown me that those geometries, that they hold the field, the energetic field of the earth as we move. She's always said that we move further into that. There's a little bit of a shunter movement, and that we move further towards the galactic center and more into the saturation of the photonic light. So that's one thing. So we are on the edges of or in process with our DNA being reconnected back to 12 strands. And so that can look like an instantaneous thing, and I think that's what will happen for some. And that can also look like a smoothing and a healing and a sealing and an activation. And so that might be a gentler way. So that's kind of what I see in that spectrum. Um, but the thing that came through is how many of us are developing this expertise of mastery in the liminal space. We are becoming masters at moving between dimensions. And so you might have read the post that I wrote yesterday about that experience because it was so weird. It was, freaky and tangible. And I might read that to you. And so we are going to be observing that many things fall away. So, you might find that things come in a little bit tighter as the energetics connect and align, and you might find that other things fall away. So we're right in the time in the world where lots of people are going to be exiting the planet. So that's going to be in our physical presence. So we will see people who leave the planets for a whole variety of reasons, and some of them will leave the planet through death. But remember, it's a soul choice. It's not a soul invoked pressure from anywhere. That these are soul decisions that are made. But some people may leave through disease, and some people may just leave because the pressure kind of signals to their body to shut down. Some people might leave because they're returning to a ship from where they've come, or to their home planet, or to have some respite time as soul, or for a whole lot of reasons. And of course, there'll be the reasons on the layers, won't there? So there'll be reasons that you might understand that are of a higher conscious nature, that people who are not in the energetics of understanding that right now will just see as a freaky accident, or something difficult to explain, or a very physical, visceral, tangible reason. So that's going to be happening. And all but the truth impact on people is going to be about things falling away that are no longer viable, no longer true to you, no longer aligned to the higher self. So these are the programs, these are the consciousness intrusions, these are the things that we've been educated to believe, the beliefs that we've been fed from television and media right through as children, the stories that we've read, the history that we've read. All of those have been inculcated into our brain neural pathways, and we regurgitate them as cognitive knowledge. And so we're going to be having realizations of those things not being true. But there's this super amazing thing that came, honestly. It makes me smile, and it kind of blows me away a bit. So I got shown this thing the other night, and I don't really, it's hard to define, but I was speaking to a Canadian friend of mine. I said to her, you managed to put into one short sentence what takes me several paragraphs to formulate. And she said, yes, but you're formulating it. That's why. And it's this idea. It's this idea that many, many people in the world now are going to do like a jump. They are going to they're going to like skip cognitive dissonance, if you like. They're not going to have this, I don't really know what's going on here, I don't understand it. They're going to come to, I've always known that. Yeah, I always have, even though and I know they never have. So it's like a forewarned, forearmed thing. So I want to say this we've talked about how do we have these conversations about ascension and about the what's gone on in the planet and all the rest of it. And so it may, if we're not careful, we could sort of take on board that they're being a know-all, but they won't know that. So it's like all of a sudden they have some kind of flick of the switch, you could call it that way, a flick of the switch where all of a sudden they are aware of the things that we have known for a long time and have been waiting for others to catch up with. So they might be aware all of a sudden, oh yeah, well, I spent quite a lot of time on Sirius B. Oh yeah, I always knew I came from the Pleiadian constellation of Seven Sisters or whatever. Um, I've always known that I had this special magical power, healing, whatever. So it's going to be like that. And I don't know if any of you have come across that or not yet. But um, that's how I've been showing it. I might just see if I can find the message. So um, um, yeah, so I wrote in here to her, we're rocking up to that time of absolute truth and alignment. I probably won't be able to find it because her and I have long conversations. Anyway, never mind. But it's this idea that many people who have been, if you like, asleep are going to have this awakening, this shift in their cognition, in their consciousness, and they're going to have moved to a place where they believe that they've always been like this. So it's like they glide across. So yeah, cosmic. Yes, it is. It is like that. It's like a cosmic alignment, a cosmic realignment. And so this is what we're doing on a planetary level. And so this sort of whole these little incremental things they're going out the window. All of a sudden it's going to be whoosh. So I don't know the exact timing of that. I I will. I will read you the post that I made because this is the sort of the I don't know what to call it, the breaking down of the reality, I guess, the fabric of our three-dimensional space is breaking down and merging through the dimensions. Um, Let me just find that and I'll read it to you, hopefully. So, we're moving into this crystalline, this Christos, this, to me, it comes in through the spinal fluid, and it's our shifting from carbon to crystalline silica in our molecular structure. And a lot of us will have these incredible gifts that come on board, but it's really about this alignment with the truth of who you are, who I am, who we are. That's the theme there. And it's really going to impact on the masculine because all of a sudden they are going to be recognizing these aspects of their own truth and where they're meant to be and who they're meant to be with and what they're meant to be doing. And it is going to feel for them a little bit shocking for some, mysterious for others, but this cognitive dissonance again is going to be moved. So I'll read this to you in case you haven't read it. Weirdest experience of my life, and there have been a few. You probably know about some of them, but honestly, this is the weirdest. So I'm calling the person or the women in the story Raya, even though that's not the name. And so there was a knock on the door. I was still in bed. I had a little check to see what day it was and what the date was, and I checked and I thought, no, 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 I haven't got any, it's like I was saying to a friend of mine, it's weird how we don't just sort of rock up to people's houses anymore, but we just don't seem to, do we? So anyway, I didn't know of any of my friends who were dropping in or, I didn't know of any of that, and I had no clients booked. And so I felt not to go to the door because it felt off. And I want to say that's the first time I've ever felt that and not gone to the door. Um, oh yeah, it was anniversary day. This was on the 27th. Um, and then the knock on the door again. And then I heard voices at the door. And so I could hear that there was a man and a woman at the door. So that was even more kind of strange. And then the phone rang and I ignored it. It rang again. And then a text message was sent. And the message said, "This is Raya," not the real name, "and I have an appointment with you." And so I don't remember really whether I texted or rang, but let's say I texted and said, "No, there are no appointments for today." Yes, that's what I did. "Your appointment is on Thursday." And then, or maybe I did. Anyway, I can't remember, but that was the gist of it. And then they kind of left. And so then I went to my email system and I messaged the woman by that name who had an appointment booked with me for Thursday. And I messaged her and said, um, "Did you want," because she had booked a Zoom session. And I said, "Oh, did you, is it that you now want to come in person?" And she said, "I'd love to, but I'm currently in India." And so I was like, this is really weird. And then we had our Zoom call, and I'd sent her a brief message about what had happened. And so just before she'd come onto the Zoom call, her partner had reminded her that the same thing had happened. Um, she said, "My partner just reminded me of another time when I had a reading booked with someone, and some person with my name turned up for my appointment 3 or 4 days earlier with her husband." And I hadn't told her that there was a man at the door. Um, yeah, so then after we had our appointment, I messaged the phone number, which was a different phone number, to say to her, "Did you want to make an appointment to come and see me?" And I've not ever heard back. So it feels pretty strange. So I think, there's something about the merging of dimensions or the past coming into here or something about that. But that was my strange experience. So, yeah, so many of you, becoming adept at, no, I wouldn't say I did that particularly well, but it's like it was weird. But this is what I wrote at funny, isn't it, that I'm telling that story? I wrote this on the 3rd of February about the liminal space and the ability for first wavers to be playing with synchronicity and to be like sinking deeply into self and into the void, just being really comfortable with not knowing, and yeah, people falling away and moving house, and like knowing lots of people who are moving house, and people who have been coming to see me. It's not been in my experience, but people have been coming to see me. um, Many of them have been speaking about this in their physical world, that they know of a lot of people who have died and their families and things like that. So yeah, I want to say that for us, we're working with this natural and this organic. We're having an understanding of it. Mm, we are in compassion and slightly removed, and learning to be comfortable in these giant surges. So I've written here, as we drop into new and higher waters of consciousness, for us to be birthed in the new form within ourselves. So like we're here now, we're birthing ourselves into this higher form that is still physical, but has more light components. The light that's coming from the solar, the lunar, and the stars is activating our DNA, is enlivening us, is bringing us into a higher vibration and a finer vibration. And also it's like we are having these stronger and newer thoughts. The mind isn't being intrusive. The mind is kind of being instructional, um, because we are arising into cosmic truth and into our own leadership, and we are being asked to ground that into the new earth reality. So yeah, this clarity of purpose coming on board, this clarity of mission, this bringing um, illumination, if you like, to your own wisdom. Many of you will be having those sorts of experiences, and this divine cosmic alignment that is further opening of the higher heart. So many of you will be feeling that in a physical, visceral way. Yeah, so make your connections with these pulsating ley lines. Do that in a conscious, tangible way today, or having done it already. Yeah, so I wrote some other bits around the, that we're coming to this DNA 12 strands, so that's going to up level our gifts, authenticity and truth, and calling this, skipping the cognitive dissonance. I'm calling that soul shock. It's like the energetics are kind of going on the soul, and all of a sudden these people who knew nothing about any of these things, all of a sudden they know it. They know about things that they didn't know about before, and so all of that cognitive dissonance that um, have been, we've been speaking about here for a while, and that I was showing clearly that we would have. And I was showing how God showed me how everyone would be wrapped up in like a tribal blanket that would hold them through this. Well, like this, I feel, is now has been replaced with this higher, this skipping cognitive dissonance. Yeah, so all of a sudden, in our entire world, the second wave, which is probably around well, it's probably around the 50 to 60%. It's a massive wave that they're going to be all knowing in this knowledge of truth about who they are and where they come from and the history of our world. So it's going to show up. This truth is going to show up in many guises and on many levels. So, for example, the COVID experience and the intrusion, the history of where that came from. That was, you will have heard me say this part, that Gaia told me that it was developed in a laboratory in the States and shipped to China for development, for further development and release. And so there's been some information that's come out recently about that very thing. There's been something that's been taken to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land in Australia, about Pfizer and documentation that indicates that there was collusion between government and Pfizer, and that was deliberately intended to kill people. And so that has been signed, sealed, and delivered, if you like, in the highest court in Australia, and so my very limited understanding of the law would mean that that is now set as a legal precedent. So it's to do, I think it comes off the back of people who were um, told they had to have particular vaccinations or they would lose their job. So I think that it segues into that somehow. And there's a lot of information around at the moment, isn't there? And so that will be legal precedent, I believe, for other people to be able to take that to court to get their remuneration for the things that have happened. Yeah, and then with those of you who are in connection with the divine, if you have a divine masculine connection and you're aware of it, the I really have been shown how they are having this massive um, awareness in their brains, and they are also recognizing that there is this love that sits in their heart. So I wrote, there's this love that sits within the heart that brings warmth and smiles even when apart. It's very, very simple, but there's a lot of recollection that's going on for the divine masculine, a lot of recognition, a lot of realization about what they truly desire to do, what their true purpose and mission is. It's, but it's part of what's going on for the collective, but they, as you know, I believe they lead the collective. So they're very much on the edges of movement, is what I want to say. And so if you're in one of those, I believe that they're in this process of what they have to do, and there'll be all the same sorts of things as we've had to do, the healing of the ancestral wounds, but a lot of the ancient lineage wounding and addressing that the divine feminines have done ameliorates that for the divine masculine, so they don't have to do all of that because their match has already done a lot of that. What else? Anything in here? Are there any questions? Is there anything you want to throw into the pot? Anyone who's in here? Catherine's written, hit that like button, cosmic Gaia family. Yeah, so there's, we're just in this grand reveal, and we're really going to see ourselves for who we are and how much we know, and it will just be held from our hearts, and that resonance is going to impact vibrationally on what is around us, and we're in this very quick turnaround, if you like. That's how it shows up to me. So yeah, I wish you a beautiful day, and feel free to add any of your experiences. I know a few of you have. If you're having any of these weird and wacky dimensional shifts, and yeah, I believe we really have got this. I want to say we're in expanded time in a day. So the days feel long. They feel elongated. They feel like a lot of things can be packed in, but the weeks are going very, very quickly. So I believe that we are going to have this ascension experience by the end of March, that we are ramping up to it, that things are getting faster, that the purification process is also part of the quickening, and that, of course, the less density there is, that's the intrusion. So the more that gets cleared, the quicker this can all rise up. The men in my world are great to know, I want to say. They are open in their hearts. They are thinking and operating with a lot of compassion, and they feel good. So, yeah, feel free to throw in what your experience of your world is. And I feel that we're on, on the edges of this. We're at the beginning of this giant shift, and it's just how long it takes to roll over. I saw that thing earlier, I think last week, like this, like a rolling wave that crashes over. And as it crashes over, it like scoops up from beneath it the rubble, the debris, and flips it out the back. And then, it also is this wave of ascension. So it's all kind of merging in as well. All right, much love to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm always so grateful. And we'll see you again soon.